Hi, everyone. My name is Heather, and I'm with Hospice of Lansing and Stoneleigh residents. Joining me here today is our registered dietitian nutritionist, Moushumi. Hi, Moushumi.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm really appreciative of you joining me and talking to me about nutrition and hospice care today. So thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And I know that there's a lot of people who have questions about dietitians and especially nutrition with hospice care. There's a lot of questions around it. My first question for you is, what does a dietitian do and how is that applied to hospice care?
As a hospice dietitian, there are multiple things you could be doing. One is we have a residence, a 8-bed residence where I set and do the menus for our patients in there. I also any patients who have any specific nutrition needs, I do review them. For example, if we have anybody on tube feeding, any other diagnosis where they're not able to eat, having swallowing issues, multiple arenas is where the hospice dietitian comes in then.
Sounds like there's a lot of different levels where you would be kind of involved and speaking with the family. At some point, food has, our nutritional value, but also kind of a comfort measure, as you said.
Absolutely. And that's where I find so much comfort in as an individual in providing care to my hospice patients. In my other roles, I'm usually telling patients or families or clients, don't eat this, don't eat that, let's do this. And hospice, actually, I'd say probably 80%, 90% of the time, I'm saying, hey, what's your favorite food? What can I get you to eat? Do you want a donut? Do you want, a special shake that I can make up for you? They might just even have a teaspoon of something, but enjoy it so much. And I always keep in mind that this might be their last meal. So let's serve them the best meal we can. So absolutely.
When you're thinking about nutrition and end of life care, what would you say are some misconceptions that people may have about food and nutrition?
One of the big misconceptions that I see is at some point at end of life we might have to withdraw food and fluid. Of course, we don't do it without consulting the family or the patient, but just explaining that food and fluid might actually be causing more discomfort than comfort at that point. And I know it is extremely hard to give that up, especially more than the person themselves. I see family members, it's extremely difficult. But then to outweigh and to educate the family on whether that is actually providing any nutrition or not, or is it just causing them more discomfort, is something I always like to explain to our patients and family. When our organs are shutting down one by one, we are not fueling the body anymore. So let's try some other ways of comfort, like music, massage, holding their hands, and things like that, other than food. Because when we are walking, talking, sitting around, versus when our bodies are shutting down, it's completely very different. The science behind how the body is working then is very, very different. So I just think that forcing food or fluid at that point is actually much harder on the body.
Well, and I'm so glad that you bring that up because I think in our culture and in a lot of cultures, just generally, we see food as love and preparing food and offering food and giving food as a way of protecting our loved ones, of keeping them well. And we feel like sometimes if we're feeding them, that we're loving them. And so
Yeah.
it's so important to understand, as you said, sometimes at a certain point, food or water actually hurts our bodies if our bodies aren't processing that right. And if people aren't aware of that, I'm so glad that there are, again, professionals like you who can help guide families through that experience so that they're understanding of what's going on and that they're actually showing love to their loved one. And it's in teamwork that they are working and being responsive to their body's needs.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I say, this is one of my most favorite places to be is in hospice, helping people end of the journey with the food, fluid, finding the balance, finding other ways of enjoyment, and making the right decision.
Well, and that's something that, again, with people are not super familiar with hospice, it's really important maybe to remind them or to let them know that every element of hospice is about comfort and every element is about individualized choice.
And every person is very different from the other person. So when somebody asks me for like a diet or something, there is not one diet or there's not one streamlined thing. Every patient or person that I'm seeing in hospice is a different individual, and how their bodies are reacting to that food and fluid is very different. So again, all meals, everything is very tailor made for that specific person.
Well, Mushimi, we've been talking for a little while, and if you were to be speaking with a family member or speaking to somebody who is thinking about hospice, what would be one thing that you'd like them to take away from this conversation when they're thinking about nutrition and hospice care?
I would say that food and fluid is of utmost comfort to one and all. And I want you to know that hospice is all about comfort. So if food and fluid at that time in their journey is providing them with the comfort, I, as a dietitian, can promise you I would do anything to make sure they get the food and fluid of the choice. And at the same time, I will continue to educate you if there comes a point where, I think it's a better decision not to not to forcefully give them added food or fluids.
Okay, well, good. And that's such an important takeaway because, again, if people are misguided or have a misunderstanding about that process, it could just be so much unnecessary misunderstanding during a time when we just really want to be um, as centered and comfortable as possible. So thank you again, Mushimi, for your time. I'd like to invite people if they have additional questions. Hospice of Lansing and Stoneleigh residents is always here to answer those questions. We're available either by phone or at our website, www.hospiceoflansing.org, and we invite people to reach out.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.